All right, today we are diving into a book that I'm telling you is a total game changer. It's Atomic Habits by James Clear. And at its heart is this one single idea that pretty much flips everything you think you know about success right on its head. You know the feeling, right? You're staring down this huge goal, and you just feel like you need that one giant life-altering moment to make it happen. You know, that big breakthrough. It could be in your career, your health, anything really. We're all kind of waiting for that lightning strike moment of transformation.
Well, what if I told you that whole idea is just wrong? What if the real key to getting those incredible results isn't about making some giant leap? What if it's about something way, way smaller, something more consistent, and, in the end, a whole lot more powerful?
And that brings us right to this first big idea, what James Clear calls the breakthrough myth. You know, we are absolutely obsessed with those overnight success stories. But the thing is, they hide the truth of how real, meaningful change actually happens. The reality? It's a lot more patient. It's much more subtle.
This quote from Jacob Riis, man, it just nails the idea perfectly. Think about it. That last swing of the hammer that finally cracks the rock, it looks so dramatic, right? But it wasn't just that one hit. It was the 100, maybe even 1,000 little taps that came before it. Each one looked like it did nothing, but they were all adding up. That's what a breakthrough is. It's just the final product of all those earlier actions finally hitting a tipping point. Okay, so to really see this idea in the real world, let's talk about one of the most incredible turnarounds in the history of sports. Seriously, we're talking about the British professional cycling team. And for the longest time, they were, to put it nicely, a complete and total joke. And look, this wasn't just a bad season or two. We are talking about an entire century of just being mediocre. I mean, they were so famously bad that, get this, top bike companies literally refused to sell them their bikes. They were afraid it would hurt their reputation if other professional riders saw the British team using their gear. That's how bad it was. Just to put this in perspective, the Tour de France, right? The biggest, most prestigious race in the world. In 110 years, not a single British rider had ever won. Not once. Zero.
And their Olympic history? Just as bad. In over 100 years, since 1908, they'd scraped together exactly one gold medal. One. This was a culture of failure, baked right in. But then something shifted, something big.
So, in 2003, British Cycling brought in a new guy, a performance director named Dave Brailsford. Now, he wasn't some famous cyclist, but what he did have was this totally different way of thinking, a new philosophy that wasn't just going to change the team, it was going to change the entire sport of cycling.
Okay, so this core idea that Brailsford brought in was called the aggregation of marginal gains. It sounds kind of fancy, but the principle's actually super simple. He basically said, what if we just improve every single tiny thing we do by just 1%? The theory was that all those tiny little gains would add up. They'd compound into one massive improvement in performance. And when I say they looked at everything, I mean everything. I mean, sure, they started with the obvious stuff, making the bike seats more comfortable, finding lighter tires. But then they went into these areas nobody would even think to look at. They were testing different massage gels to see which one helped muscles recover faster. They hired a surgeon to teach the riders the right way to wash their hands to cut down on getting sick. They figured out the perfect pillow for each rider to get the best possible night's sleep. They even painted the inside of their team truck white so they could spot the tiniest specks of dust that might mess with the bike's performance. It sounds almost crazy, right? But it was all part of this grand strategy. Now, taken by themselves, any one of these changes seems pretty insignificant, almost pointless, right? But as they all started to stack up, one on top of the other, well, something amazing started to happen. And the results, they started pouring in way faster than anyone thought possible. This right here is the magic of compounding.
So remember that one single gold medal they won in 100 years? Okay, well, just 5 years after Dave Brailsford took over, the team shows up to the 2008 Beijing Olympics. And they don't just win, they absolutely dominate. They walked away with a staggering 60% of all the gold medals available in their events. It was unbelievable.
And the wins just kept coming. It was a snowball effect. 4 years later, at the London Olympics, they shattered 9 Olympic records and 7 world records. That very same year, a British cyclist won the Tour de France for the first time ever. And then they just kept winning it. 5 victories in the next 6 years. They went from being the joke of the sport to a decade of complete and utter dominance. A total reversal.
So, why are we talking so much about cycling? Because this incredible story isn't really just about bikes. It's a perfect blueprint for how to get better at anything in your own life. And it points to a really common mistake we all make when we think about our goals.
See, we're all taught to set big goals, right? To focus on that finish line. But here's the catch that Clear points out. Winners and losers, they have the exact same goals. Every single athlete at the Olympics wants to win a gold medal. So the goal itself isn't what makes the difference. What does make the difference is their system. It's the process, the collection of all those little daily habits that actually leads to the results.
And this next line honestly is probably the most important idea in the whole book. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Your results today, they're really just a reflection of the habits you've been doing for weeks and months. So the system is everything. And this is the part I love. Clear gives us a simple 4-step formula to build better systems. He says you have to make your good habits obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. And think about the cycling team. Painting the truck white, that made the dust, the problem, obvious. Testing massage gels made recovery feel better, more attractive. Proper hand washing, it's a super easy way to avoid getting sick. And the result of all of it? Winning, which is of course incredibly satisfying. That's the loop, that's the engine.
So let's bring this all home. The big question to ask yourself isn't just what's my 1% improvement. It's a little deeper. It's how can I design my life, my environment, to make that 1% improvement almost automatic? So think about it. What is one tiny little thing you can do today to make a good habit more obvious, or more attractive, or just a little bit easier, or a little more satisfying? Because that's the lesson from the British cycling team. It's those tiny, almost invisible changes, when they're stacked up day after day, that build the kind of remarkable results we're all looking for.